Hi, Dylan. Happy Saturday. I am going to do a video now. All right, I'm bad at intros, but I'm going to start by responding to the screw tape letter. I thought that was great. Yeah, I really love the screw tape letters. I think I've only read it a couple of times, and it's been probably a decade since I have. So I think you've inspired me to get back into it and read it all again because that's just good stuff. But the one you chose in particular focuses on our relationship with time, as you were talking about, like whether or not we're putting our hopes of happiness in something in the future or living in the present and trying to manage that. And I think um, something that we can focus on is that both can be true. A lot of times we hear this phrase in Christian circles called like the already not yet, which tells us about how some things have happened but haven't been fully fulfilled yet. And so we're sort of in this in between moment where, yes, we meet God in the present moment. You know, he refers to himself as the I am. So that's a present thing. And that's really the only place we have any agency. We can affect things in our present. We can try to affect the future. We can't do anything about the past. So the present moment is really sacred and important in that way. But also, the future is as well. And it can be something that leads to anxiety and stuff like that. But it's also what we look to with hope for Jesus's return and redemption and justification and justice to be served and all the things that we sort of hold as the end goals for our life and our journey. And so there are positive things to be said for both the future and the present. Um, and yeah, figuring out how to navigate that well and not be overwhelmed in the present and be driven towards anxiety about the future are important things. That's what I'm still dealing with, as I have been for a while, trying to figure out the future. And my stay bray still is to find peace and contentment and joy in the present moment and the fact that we have a house, we have a good marriage and family and stuff like that. Instead of freaking out like, I have no capacity to provide for my family. Uh, we're making it work. We're making it work. So that's basically my reaction to that. We just have to live with trust in the future, trust in God, trust in eventual victory over the enemy's schemes. Because he be scheming. My cat is being a goofball, just out of frame. Anyway, today I want to share with you a speech from the HBO show called Newsroom. This show came out 12 years ago, 2012. So it's been a while, and maybe it's a little outdated, this speech, but it's from like the opening scene. It kind of sets the tone for the whole show. I never really saw the show, but clips of this speech kind of make their rounds once in a while because it's really well written by Aaron Sorkin, one of the great screenwriters of our time. Um, and it's basically about how America is not the greatest country in the world. Because so many people say, like, why? Oh, America's the greatest. And then in this scene, he's asked, like, why do you think America's the greatest? And he's like, baseball. And they're like, no, really. And he's like, well, that's, I guess, where this kind of picks up. He says something like, I don't think America's the greatest. And they're like, you don't? Well, expand. So I'm going to read his response to that and then sort of my response and see if we can find some sort of truth between the two claims of America's the greatest, America's not the greatest. Where's the truth? We're going to get into it. So this is my speech for Speeches, Stories, Lyrics, and Letters. He says, Fine. Sharon, the NEA, is a loser. Yeah, it accounts for a penny out of our paychecks, but he gets to hit you with it anytime he wants. It doesn't cost money, it costs votes. It costs airtime and column inches. You know why people like why, you know why people don't like liberals? Because they always lose. If liberals are so effing smart, how come they lose so gosh dang always? This is HBO. I'm censoring the HBO-ness of it. And with a straight face, you're going to tell students that America is so star-spangled awesome that we're the only ones in the world who have freedom. Canada has freedom. Japan has freedom. The UK, France, Italy, Germany, Spain, Australia, Belgium has freedom. 207 sovereign states in the world, like 180 of them have freedom. And you, sorority girl, yeah, just in case you accidentally wander into a voting booth one day, there are some things you should know. And one of them is that there is absolutely no evidence to support the statement that we're the greatest country in the world. We're 7th in literacy, 27th in math, 22nd in science, 49th in life expectancy, 178th in infant mortality. Spoiler alert, that's way wrong. Third in medium household income, number 4 in labor force, and number 4 in exports. We lead the world in only 3 categories: number of incarcerated citizens per capita, number of adults who believe angels are real, and defense spending, where we spend more than the next 26 countries combined, 25 of them of whom are allies. None of this is the fault of a 20-year-old college student, but you, nonetheless, are without a doubt a member of the worst generation ever. So when you ask what makes us the greatest country in the world, I don't know what the heck you're talking about. Yosemite? We sure used to be. We stood up for what was right. We fought for moral reasons. We passed and struck down laws for moral reasons. We waged wars on poverty, not poor people. We sacrificed. We cared about our neighbors. We put our money where our mouths were, and we never beat our chest. We built great big things. We made ungodly technological advances, explored the universe, cured diseases, and cultivated the world's greatest artists and the world's greatest economy. We reached for the stars and we acted like men. We aspired to intelligence. We didn't belittle it. It didn't make us feel inferior. We didn't identify ourselves by who we voted for in the last election, and we didn't scare so easy. And we were able to be all these things and do all these things because we were informed by great men who were revered. The first step in solving any problem is recognizing there is one. America is not the greatest country in the world anymore. So that's the speech. Pretty well written, pretty powerful, pretty convincing. But I'd like to give it a little fact check and a little counter argument. See what we can do here. So we're 7th in literacy. Maybe. Yeah, we're consistently ranked behind countries like Japan and Canada and I think even Finland. But it always fluctuates depending on the study and how it's done. So yeah, maybe 7th in literacy. 27th in math, 22nd in science. That's a bit of an exaggeration. We're usually somewhere between 13th and 25th. So on the low end, yeah, maybe, but probably not. 49th in life expectancy. This is like 12 years old. So at this point, we're at least closer to 40 instead of 49th, which, isn't great. But we kind of know that. America is known for being a little chubby, to put it lightly, I suppose. So, yeah, not leading in that regard. So he's got a point there. 178th in infant mortality. Yeah, among developed countries, we're not great. We're like 33rd, but nowhere near 178th. So that's probably just dramatic effect happening on that one. The 3 categories that he says we are leading in is incarceration, belief in angels, and defense spending, which are either accurate or subjective. So that's true. I don't know if those are the only 3 things we're leading in, so that's probably not true, but we are at least leading in incarceration, defense spending, and belief in angels. Maybe that's the subjective one. So where does that leave us? Are those arguments enough to say um, flat out that America is not the greatest country in the world? Or is there something to be said about America's education and innovation? For years and years, like pretty much the course of America's history, it's been the center of innovation and technological advances and developments in different educational fields. So that's pretty cool. Economic strength. It's hard to argue that the economic power of America is not one of the greatest. Is top three, for sure. I would say it's really powerful. I'm not an expert though. So it's got the largest economy by nominal GDP, and it definitely attracts a lot of talent and investment and new business stuff like that. So it's economically strong. Cultural influence by a mile, I would say. Our music and our movies and stuff like that, our holidays, have made it all the way around the world in ways that no other countries have. Um, Freedom and governance. He talks about how all these other countries have freedom, but um, I think it's more foundational to our constitution and laws and cultural identity than it is for some of these other countries. And so we are always sort of pushing for freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of assembly. All these like First Amendment things in particular is a hugely important safeguard for freedom in our country that sometimes, a lot of times, doesn't happen in other countries. Um, in the speech, he criticizes Americans for scaring easy, um, which can be true for some people, but I think as a collective, the way we were able to, I don't know, get through things like the quarantines and the lockdowns, and we were able to like find joy and camaraderie in some of those moments, and the way we can rally together for things like the pro-life bill that just passed in Nebraska. I was really happy about that. There was two things on the ballot this year. One was like pretty much a pro-life thing. Well, it was like a 12-week abortion ban, which is better than um, any other option that we had to vote for. And there was like the full-term abortion rights, all that stuff, which was not cool. Um, and so that sort of resilience and freedom and able to just like vote for the things that we care about, that's a sort of freedom that I really admire and respect. And yeah, I'm not an expert in how other countries do their things, but I know there are a lot of countries that don't do that. Looking at like North Korea, that's an unfair comparison, but still, anyway. Um, yeah, so to say it's the best or it's not the best, I think is a hugely subjective argument. I think there are a lot of good arguments for what we're doing well here in America. I think there are a lot of fair criticisms of America at the same time. So it's not so black and white. Um, I think what we can do, though, is focus on progress and potential and learning from the past and not so much about winning the title of greatest, but focusing on growing and being the best country and the best population, best citizens we can be, which has been on a lot of people's minds, I would say, with recent election developments and news and stuff like that. And the post I put out this week for Wisdom Now was all about building bridges and trying to encourage people and make connections and fight divisiveness. And that's where my heart is right now. Just focusing on growth and love and progress and trying to be above shallow name calling and villainizing and labeling, such as greatest or not greatest. So anyway, that's my video for you today. Let me know what you think. I will talk to you next time. All right, bye.